My name is Adebayo Ayodeji. Well, I was born on the 11th of April, 1930, Nondo town. I was born to Ayodeji family. My father was High Chief in Nondo, and my grandfather was High Chief too, High Chief Sachere, Nondo town. The first son of my father. And was at school for a short time, Ondo Boys High School. And I left the school at 16 after qualifying for the Cambridge School Certificate at the age of 16, which was quite remarkable then, with exemption from London matriculation. But then my father then said, "You're 16, you just can't go to Europe." I was going to do something else. I had to wait for 2 years. Came to Lagos here, just messing around. I stayed with my uncle here, who was urban pharmacy then. I was here for about 2 years and then left at 19. That was about 1949 or 50, 1949 or 50. To the UK. Those days there's no flight. I had to go by boat. So I was in the boat with two other guys. One, Ogunro, now late, Dr. Ogunro, and another guy, Akikugbe, again late. The three of us were in SS Canada. It's a French boat. So we had to stop every stop on the French colonies, along the west coast, from here up to North Africa, to the Mediterranean, then by train from Mediterranean to Paris, from Paris again to London by boat, and all that. Anyway, the journey took 21 days. That's a hell of a long time to stay, but it was fun. We were young, we were enjoying it with the sailors, because it was a cargo boat, It's not a passenger boat, but they took a few passengers those days. That was good fun. Saw the world through the prisms, the narrow prisms of being caged into a cargo boat. And that was it. Arrived in London, met by the British Council. Of course, those days, not many people were going to the British who are involved with all these arrangements, Met, put up in the hostel in London, called Hans Crescent, I think, where they put colonial students from all over the world. They're all colored, From there, I had to go to my destination, which was Edinburgh in Scotland. I had to travel by train from King's Cross Station in London to Edinburgh city itself. That's the beginning of my medical career, really. Yeah. I just wanted to be a doctor, When you're young, you want to be something, What you want to do. I've always wanted to be a doctor, that's all. Maybe I was I was probably influenced by my uncle, late uncle. He was a pharmacist. And his urban pharmacy, they were very, very, the foremost pharmacy then, his original name was Alfred, and the band is Banjo, Marquis. They called Marquis those days, Lagos man. So the two of them formed the Urban Pharmacy. I was living with him in Lagos here. But that again encouraged me more or less to go into medicine. And that was it. But the thing was, I didn't have the schools here didn't have good science subjects, but you had to have science subjects to go into medicine. So that's another obstacle you have to go through. When I arrived there, I had to go to a really special coach to get the subject. It took the highest, they call it highest school certificate. The highest school certificate in England, they call it higher. They call it highest in Scotland. I had to take that before you went to the university, which I did. And then after that, going to the university. I was married, for example, while I was a student. I got checked. I changed university to Edinburgh, from Edinburgh to Dublin, as in Ireland, and then back here. And I was actually probably not going to. I wasn't encouraging. The situation wasn't encouraging. Didn't want to come back actually. A cousin of mine, Professor Dorset, was the vice dean of the university teaching hospital. We started in 1962 and came to see me and said, look, you're qualified now, you better come home. You have to come home. We started the teaching hospital. So I was the first house officer there. Were 4 doctors. One Professor Jolomi Thomas, who was the boss of the whole lot. He was the dean of the Faculty of Medicine. And my cousin was the vice dean, that's Professor Dorset. And then we had 2 other doctors, Dr. Elebute and Dr. Adeshola. They're both surgeons. And then I was the most junior. I was the house officer, just fresh from university. Then a few others came in to join us. One Dr. Johnson, Lagos chap, and one Dr. Diakosa, and he's probably late, both late. Junior officers, And that's it. That's how we started teaching hospital. Plus some American woman who was Department of Anesthesia, came from Rochester University in New York. And one Portuguese doctor from Portugal who was in the radiology department. That's all. That was the start of the teaching hospital. After I stayed there, I had to leave because I wanted to do obstetrics and gynecology. There was no obstetrics there and gynecology. I had to go to Island Maternity, the same Island Maternity. Or you just call it baby factory, was producing babies like rabbits those days. And I was a registrar there for 2 years until I went back to the UK to go to specialist training in gynecology and obstetrics. And came back, left here in 69 and came back in 71 to Lagos here. And of course, I wasn't going to government practice. I was on my own. I started my own practice in 1971, but doing general practice. 71. was the most beautiful experience I had in practice here. It was like in Europe, even better those days, you know. It's fantastic. I refuse to go there near the place these days, you know. It's not just what it was. It was a fantastic place. I was very proud to be associated with the place. Yes, well organized. It was very well organized. Not so crowded as it is now. And we had a lot of help from abroad. Like I said, the Department of Anesthesia was an American woman, a woman who came from Rochester, New York, Rochester University. And I'm sure it's got to do with the teaching hospital, connection with maybe intergovernmental anyway. And like a professor of obstetrics and gynae from Dublin, one Professor Thompson in Ireland, and radiology from Portugal, you know. So very international staff. And yeah, it was quite smooth really, but we had a problem with accommodation initially for the staff, especially me, a junior staff. I had to live in Surulere, you know, very close to the teaching hospital. I was living in Surulere with my uncle, who was living in Surulere then, until the university, teaching hospital rather, organized accommodation for us. So that's a bit of that wasn't very, very pleasant, but it's all right. It wasn't too far from the teaching hospital. But later on, of course, the problem of accommodation was resolved. We had accommodation in the compound. Very nice accommodation for the staff. Very good. I mean, those expatriates who were here were just, they loved it. No, it was nice. Well, I did, but this accommodation thing was one really, that wasn't nice. My wife was expatriate and not used to relatively rough life in Surulere then, but she had to make do with it. But when we got to to settle down on the compound, the teaching hospital was different. It's nice environment, all that. It's good.